Doomsday 3.
Yeah, we're in Doomsday 1. He came from one of the toughest areas of Phoenix. Only his country.
You got people on the defense talking about it. You better get your ass to the ball. You better get to the ball.
I just got to say, when it comes to Dallas Cowboys, well,
It's different. Had you stayed
For sure, we would have thrown it off because
and I go to bed every night like, G man, I promise you that. What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here. As you see, it's too special, so I had to get back in the cave because, you know, when you have special guests, you got to be in a special spot. I just need to make sure we're looking good, feeling good. That way, we have a great show. And Kelly, this is gonna be a lot of fun. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be fun. Been looking forward to this for a little while, and even more when I seen the little highlight reel that you put up. And I mean, a man after my own heart when I seen him, the big nasty lineman squaring up with the Philadelphia Eagles when he's squaring up with these guys.
Man, that's how he does it.
I said, this is a guy after my own heart right here, man. I said, you bring it, man. We need some of that nasty on the Cowboys team right now.
No, there's no doubt about it. But I'm excited because this is my era, and we're going to get into it. But the neat thing, and that's one of the first things I'm going to ask is, he came from the Landry era. He was one of the few that came from the Landry all the way through the Super Bowls that made it through the back-to-back Super Bowls. So let's not waste no more time, man. Let's bring in my man, Kevin Gogan. How you doing today?
wonderful. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing good. We're doing good. You're up in Washington. Looks like you're in a cabin or just enjoying yourself.
No, this is home. Yeah, it's
okay.
I live up on the I have like 20 acres up here on the side of the mountain, and I have a great view, and nobody bugs me, and it's kind of nice. I like it.
Well, I'm going to I have a cabin in Blue Ridge, North Georgia. So I'm heading up there Monday, and it's the same thing. It's like no one bothers you. The kids aren't going, just my wife and I. So it should be.
It's not. I may never come back. My kids are, I have a couple of kids close by, and those show up every now and then. So it's kind of nice, but they definitely want to call first.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, hey, man, I appreciate you coming. I kind of told the story before. I reached out to you. You commented on a video, and you said something that's interesting. You said one of your buddies shows you my videos. So,
yeah.
Do you think I'm crazy, or do you enjoy it?
Oh, dude, this guy Danny Corville, he has Corville Outdoors, and we've become friends on Instagram, and like he would show me these videos of you, like, showing up in that room and talking all that smack. And I was like, man, I need to get some of these drugs this guy's living on, because this looks awfully fun. And, we would laugh. And then, like when you reached out, and I messaged him, and he's like, oh, man, you've hit the big time now. And we've been just laughing about it. It's kind of funny. I don't really do a whole lot. I don't really do a whole lot of, interviews or things, but if it looks fun, I'm in. I like to have a good time, and I have a lot of good, good memories and good things to share.
Yeah, no, it's an honor, man. I mean, you're one of my favorites growing up. The Great Wall. But I mentioned it kind of in the beginning, and you were one of the guys, in '87. I think you got drafted, if my memory's right. But you were in that Landry era, and you had a few years of Landry before the Jimmy Johnson. So you kind of saw the downward, the downside of the Cowboys, and then, really getting back up with Jimmy Johnson. So how was it, playing with some of the legends, even though they were older, like a Randy White, Ed Too Tall Jones, Tony Dorsett, Herschel Walker, all these guys that you kind of you jumped on with?
Yeah, it was a super unique time because it was '87, like you said, Mike, and it was a strike year for the NFL, and I'm young and happy to be there as an 8th round pick, and seeing the old veterans go through, whether they're going to cross the line or not, and how their annuities were tied to it, and the shit that went down with that was pretty wild. But one of the most, and the biggest thing that stuck out in my mind was in the Landry era, and it still carried through. It drug down a little bit when we were 1-15, but the amount of people that showed up to hotels on the road, the fans that Washington. I went to University of Washington. It was a big school. And, we did well there, and, they had a, good fan base, but, you go to the Cowboys and you go to Philadelphia and there's 12,000 people at the hotel in the 80s, it was just like, damn, this is, and, but it's still, like you said, it still had some of the legendary players on it. And we were just getting our ass kicked, though. It wasn't that much fun, to be honest with you.
No, but there was a guy on your team who's been on our show, and he's a staple on here during the season, Eugene Lockhart. And I just that man as crazy as I think he is? Because I've we hung out with him.
Man, we've had there was a hoopster basketball team that we would travel around and play games, and Eugene and Everson Walls. It would, Manny Hendricks, it was, and they would take an occasional white dude like myself because I wasn't much of a shooter, but I was a good rebounder, so I wasn't a threat to the scoring title. So they would take me on there, and we would travel around, and Lockhart was always there. I think he was out there. He probably still is. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I've heard some of his stories. I'm not so sure about how authentic they are, but whatever, man, he's probably been hit on the head quite a bit.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy, good heart.
Yeah,
sure. But maybe if you could clear up one thing, because I'm a Miami guy, so Michael Irvin's my guy. There was a rumor about maybe an incident on the bus during a basketball game where there was kind of the dog. There was a lead dog, and it kind of changed hands with a little scuffle between. It might have been Michael Irvin and Eugene Lockhart. Do you know anything about
I do not. But if I had to put my money on it, I've been in a lot of locker rooms and in a lot of fights, and Michael Irvin all day long, dude. That kid was tough as shit. There's just no two ways about it. He'd have thumped Eugene. I know Eugene Lockhart is not going to want to hear that, but he'd have thumped his ass. There's no two ways. I mean, of all the tough guys that I've seen, I'd put Michael Irvin in the top 5.
Wow.
You have a kid that has a busload of brothers and sisters. He's long and he's lean. He's not, and he wasn't scared to throw his fists, man. Michael Irvin was tough. Michael Irvin is tough,
No,
for sure.
I don't know if you know the story with him at Miami. His freshman year, Jimmy Johnson was the coach, and Michael Irvin was in the food line, and an offensive lineman told him, "Hey, freshman, you get to the back." And Michael Irvin beat the hell out of him. And this guy was like,
there's no two ways about it.
And he was crying, like he said, he was crying in Coach Jimmy Johnson's office, and Jimmy Johnson told him, "Look, man." He goes, as long as I'm the coach here, you never have to worry about not being on this team. So I guess
I don't care what you do in the off season, but during the season, I'm not, Jerry Rice. I played with Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin. Not position affiliated at all, but two of the hardest workers I've ever seen. Physical, run, leaded suit, push yourself beyond limits,
on another level
type people. Yeah. Fuck that, what the hell,
Well, Kevin, you were a part of, this Cowboys team that was, you talked about, that in the 80s when you came on Landry. Obviously, it was kind of like the downs. Things were on the downside of it. And then Jerry Jones comes over, takes over the team, and you get Jimmy Johnson that comes in there. And then so you kind of experience both spectrums of it, not winning a lot of games. And then all of a sudden, you guys start building something with Jimmy Johnson. What was the biggest contrast in coaching between, playing for a guy like Tom Landry, who's obviously he's a legendary coach, but then Jimmy Johnson, who comes in, and obviously builds this team and turns it, into a, dynasty here in the 90s. What was talk about that a little bit, the biggest contrast between those two guys?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like the biggest, Jimmy was all about your mind, and he was all about, pumping stuff into your head that was nothing but positive, and, don't let the grind get to your mind, and, work. And, he made it very clear. I think even if somebody doesn't like you, it's awfully nice to know where you stand with them. And, Jimmy would come into that meeting room and tell you straight up, you are not as valuable as Michael Irvin. You are not as valuable as Emmitt Smith. So, when they screw up, they're going to get more of a break than you are. And you know what? That may be kind of messed up, but it's also, where you stand. And I think that was really important. I honestly think that Coach Johnson didn't know a whole lot about, offensive football for sure. But he did know how. I mean, you got so many different personalities. You got Charles Haley, to a guy like, Darren Woodson, like two totally different end of the spectrum guys. And you got to deal with 53 of these, clowns. And he was amazing at psychologically dealing with people and making you want to run through the wall when you just know, you knew that, like, oh man, I don't feel great today. And he could talk to you and put you in a mood that he's going to get so much more out of you out of practice than you ever thought you were going to give that day. And, you're just not dumb. You're not dumb about it. Like, oh man, Jesus Christ, this guy just talked me into going harder than I ever thought I would have. And, day after day. And he was amazing at that. And he changed the culture with, we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win. I don't give a shit. We're going to win. And, everyone leaves, there's, you do mention, from the Landry era to the, the Johnson championship era.
Yeah.
95% of the guys are gone. And, he had a plan. He stuck to his plan and he believed in it, which made us believe in it, which was, pretty sweet.
Yeah. And it was interesting. Like the guys that came with you, I'm just going to talk about the linemen. So you had Nate Newton, you had 2-A, and yourself. And, that's call it 3/5 or 3/6 of the Great Wall, which became such a dominant offensive line. What made you guys so special? I'm kind of leading in because I'm going to ask you a question that I asked Moose Johnston, when you finish. But what made your offensive line just so special and so dominant in the 90s, especially in the Super Bowl runs?
I would say coaching. I did much better under Hudson Hawk, and he worked with each player individually, and work to your advantages, even though it may be against his theory or his footwork theory or whatever it may be. And he knew how to, he had it so we could come off that ball full speed, and have these steps where if somebody pinched that you didn't have to read, it just fell into your hands. And it just, you get to that Super Bowl in Buffalo, the one in Atlanta, and you're just coming off the fucking ball, and you just, like somebody's going to get in your way. And you just, you didn't have to, sometimes you take an outside step and, a guy pinches, you got to recover and you fall on your face and you look like shit, And with his, he had this inside drop step and it covered all aspects. I mean, it sounds like it would be easy to learn and, but he had it dialed in. And he knew that, with big guys like we had, that just coming off the ball was just, was going to hurt.
Yeah.
And it hurt, and it definitely hurt somebody.
And it was amazing because you guys, especially the group, I always go back to 2-A, Newton, and yourself, because it's not like you guys were all first round draft picks in these studs.
I mean, the truth is, they got rid of everybody, and at some point they gotta stop. And offensive linemen, I mean, it's like sometimes you know what you got, and it's not everything that you want, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and you should address other places.
Yeah.
And and that's kind of the situation, it was for us, because before we got there, before they got there with Hackett as a coordinator, I mean, we were just getting our asses handed to us. But I mean, it was culture. It was definitely culture, because once you start thinking you're going to get your ass handed to you, you are. And once you start thinking you're going to win, you're going to win.
Yeah,
because it changes the mood.
And culture is something that we're going to get into in a bit. But I wanted to ask. So I have this ticket stub from 1989, Washington Redskins, the only victory the Cowboys had. Sunday, I'm going to get Jimmy Johnson to sign it, so it's in this cave somewhere. I got to get down to the Keys and maybe hang out on his boat or something. But the difference to me in the 90s is when Emmitt Smith, right? And you get Emmitt Smith, and that was one of the things. So I get in a lot of fights back in the day, not fist fights, but arguments. Nowadays, I get in arguments because every time I post something about Emmitt, there's always, a negative, or they're always going to compare him to Barry or this or that. Was Emmitt a product of the line? Was Emmitt a benefit? Did Emmitt benefit the line? Was it a mutual, helping each other out? I hear this all the time.
You want the truth?
I haven't had an offensive lineman say it, so I want to know.
We want the truth here.
Okay, this is how you can prove it's not the offensive line. This is how you can prove it was Emmitt Smith. He held out, right? He held out.
Yes.
And when he held out, so remember, the culture is very positive, and HUD would come in there, and this is honest to God truth that happened. He'd come in there day after day. I think it was maybe Derek Lassick was the running back.
Derek Lassick was the running back.
Yeah. And and Derek had some game. There's no two ways about it. But he, clearly wasn't Emmitt Smith. Not many people are. And he would say, "Oh no, man, it's the offensive line. We go through week one, and Derek Lassick has like 30 yards, And then he tried to sell that shit to us the next week. And I finally said, "Hey, HUD, it ain't, you're not going to sell this shit to us. It's Emmitt, I mean, he was, if you look at the film, he never got hit hard, man. I mean, the guy hurt his shoulder in the Giants game and all that, but I mean, nobody ever just fucking tatered him. He was so shifty. I mean, like if you think about the huddle, and that's why, I give Troy a lot of credit. I mean, I give him a massive amount of credit, because you got guys in that huddle that want the ball, and there's only one ball, and you got to control, you got to control Michael Irvin saying, "Throw me the fucking ball." And you got to control 5 offensive linemen saying, "Let's run it, because we can't give up a sack when we run the ball," And then you got a running back that's, arguably the greatest running back of all time that wants the ball. You got an incredible tight end in Jane. I mean, and then when Aikman steps in, he doesn't want to hand the ball off. He wants to throw the goddamn thing, So I mean, it was quite a talent act to control that huddle. But like I said, that's why I give him the credit, because when he stepped in that thing, it got quiet, and to get Michael Irvin to be quiet is not an easy task.
That's not an easy task.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, who can argue with the guy? He was freaking phenomenal. I mean, Michael Irvin was fucking unbelievable, and you're never going to find a guy that wanted to win more ever. Like, I mean, he'll make you want to go out there and play today the way he sounds.
No, well, he still does.
He was special.
He's been to Cowboys games. He still does the pregame, hype videos, before the game. He's still doing that.
He's on those same drugs you're on, Mike.
People say that him and I need to collaborate. You make that. Him and I need to collaborate. Get this thing rolling.
You guys got the same dealer.
Hey, we're from the 305, man. We grew up in the same area, so I love Michael Irvin.
Yeah, so do I, man. So do I. Absolutely.
Hey, well, Kevin, you'll playing back in the 90s. I mean, it was a different era. Obviously, we've all watched kind of the evolution of how things have changed. it was just a different time. It seemed like it was, the hits were harder. I mean, the quarterback, I remember seeing Troy Aikman get practically laid out, thought he was going to be carried out on a stretcher. Somehow he kept, he was always getting up. But, you had the Eagles and the whole Bounty Bowl thing. You had the NFC East rivals just seemed at an all-time high at that time. Who was the team that you hated the most? Because I saw a few clips of you squaring up with some Philadelphia Eagles that kind of made me jump up a little bit. So who was it that you like to go against and really get under their skin?
Man, at that time, we weren't getting under anybody's skin. They were just, I think they were just licking their chops, I mean, God, it was a day off for them. It was such a rude awakening to go into the NFC East. It was LT, Charles Mann, Manley, Dexter Manley. There was, then you go to Philadelphia with Reggie White, Clyde Simmons. I mean, it was just, when you got to Arizona or whatever they were called at the time, that was like that was your one break. And, I don't, like I said, it goes back to mindset. Our mindset wasn't, we were trying to survive, not trying to, get over that hump. And it was tough because we were getting it handed to us. And I think with older players on the team that they still had lingering around, I think they were, they had one at some time, the older guys had one at some time, and they just weren't, they just weren't into it. And, there wasn't enough youth there. They were trying to hold on, maybe for another title or whatever it may have been. And, there was Randy Whites that still wanted it and, would want it still today. But there were some other guys that were content with just not winning or just, happy with what they had going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
you voted the NFL's dirtiest player now and earned the name the Big Nats. Is that something that you prided yourself or not necessarily playing dirty, but just playing with that mean streak? Because I feel like every team needs a guy on their team that's going to be that guy.
Well, I think that's another good question because I kind of assessed the situation, and the reality of it is, you're not a better athlete than a defensive lineman. You're just not. They're sleeker, they're faster, they're better athletes. They can usually lift more, run, run around circles and all that crap. But you have an advantage. Where the play's going, and the snap count. And I might not have been better than you, but I was going to try to outwork you. And there's 70 plays, and I really don't give a shit whether you like me or not. I wasn't out there to win any type of award to be your friend. I wasn't trying to hurt you. There's no two ways about it. But if you're going to stand by the pile and the whistle's not blown, you're going to get a fucking rib shot. That's just the way it is. And sometimes, it hurts your team. Sometimes it doesn't. And they're legal in practice too. That's the fun part. And it's the Cowboys, man. We practiced. I mean, holy shit, we were in full pads on the Friday before Super Bowl. We practiced, and but that's really all we knew at the time. Later in life, you realize shit that other teams do it differently, but that's all we knew. And he had, Coach Johnson had got us to buy in, and that's that alone is a special task.
Yeah, and it's funny. Jimmy Johnson, one of the things that, again, going back to the Miami days, is whenever they would play a big team, he would have his defensive guys would kill the quarterback early and take a personal foul, but just send a message. And it was a psychological message.
He never told me that. God damn it.
You got to watch the U. You got to watch the U. You watch those.
Oh, man.
On stuff.
I've seen them guys when they dance between plays out there. No, I don't want to be involved in that. That looked like they were having too much fun.
But hey, you got the chance to, you got your ass whooped a little bit early, but now's a chance to whoop a little ass back, right? So now you're beating Philly, you're beating the Niners. You're now. I mean, how good of a feeling was it when everything came together, especially in the Super Bowl years, where now is the time for payback?
I really wish I would have thought about it a little bit more like that at the time. And I think I think you have an awareness of that. But man, I really think that you're so engulfed in the fact that, you know, you're trying to get to that Super Bowl, and you know how far fetched it was not too long ago. You know, like, I mean, 89 and 90 were just, run a steak knife through your eye type shit. And and now you're like, damn, man, you still, I mean, I still kind of feel like you question yourself a little bit, like, damn, are we this good? Then you like you say, you're beating the Phillies, you're beating the, you're going to the NFC Championship game and beating San Francisco in San Francisco, which is not an easy task, with that talent they had. And and then getting to the Super Bowl and just, I don't think we knew any different. I think it was fucking pedal to the metal, and whoever you're going to throw out there in front of us, I don't think the game plan changed. I just think it, we had better players than you, and I hope you like it, because you're going to have to live with it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the the things that you guys had, that mindset of just kind of going after. But Moose even said that it was such a short period, right? Because then Jimmy leaves and all this, and then you left, Ken Norton left, and it's kind of a changeover. It's just everything happened, was gone kind of before it started. It almost left a feeling of wanting more,
Yeah, and it seriously is like drugs, because I chased it after that. I definitely chased it, and I even chased it in Miami with Jimmy again, and it just just wasn't the same. It was, I mean, it's just it's that once in a lifetime when you have the right group of guys and the chemistry is there, and young and dumb enough that we didn't really give a shit. I mean, we were aware that, he was kicking the shit out of us. There's no two ways about it. I mean, we knew that we were putting in the effort, but at this point, I mean, we complained then, but today, I don't, maybe Stepnoski would complain a little bit.
Well, we didn't talk about it, but Stepnoski, I mean, obviously just a phenomenal lineman. Eric Williams, who, I mean, so many would be probably one of the greatest offensive linemen. I mean, car accident, kind of hurt.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, they dropped the level of, they dropped the requirement level for the Hall of Fame when they let Baselli in a year or two ago. And I think once they lowered that level, because he had an injury, then I think that puts Eric Williams in the middle of it, or it should at least, because there's nobody that shut down Reggie White in the history of the game that shut him down, like single. I mean, like, we never turned back. We never look. I've been out at that tackle position before Eric Williams got there, and you don't want to be out there against Reggie White. You don't want to be out there, and like, Eric's just straight off, Central, whatever that little college he went to, and he was he was out there dry. I mean, he was a bad man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that, it's another, that's another thing, Jimmy. He knew who to draft. He knew who to, bring in. Very few mistakes did he make. I think Terrence Flagler was probably a mistake. I think he traded. He was a high. I mean, I think he gave a second round. He got him from the Niners with Danny Stubbs. Danny Stubbs.
Oh, I know Danny Stubbs. Yeah.
And Stubbs turned out to be, pretty damn good. And Flagler, it was just too mentally tough for him.
Yeah.
It was. I think we went 30-something days in a row of double days.
Yeah. Did you remember Mike Sherrard? He was on our show.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of those guys.
Yeah, I was on the Cowboys when he broke his leg.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
Mike
you were
Sherrard,
at the game. Were you at the game? It was a season when Tom Landry had a death threat, I think, against the Rams.
Oh man, don't even. Yeah, that was some. Dude, that was some fucked up shit right there. I mean,
no, stand by.
No, that was just. Let me just ask you this: what have you heard?
I heard the story was because they did a Cowboys story on their website. It was a fan, or there was something that they were upset about the Cowboys, about him. They wanted him fired, or there was something where they wanted him gone, and someone made a death threat and said that it was during the Monday night. I think it was Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they tell you who they put Tom's hat and coat on?
No.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting story. It was funny. Like, once again, I mean, I'm young. I'm happy to be there, and so they come in and they announce this. This is the best of my memory. How's that? They come in and announce this. Someone's going to shoot Tom. And and so they're like, we need somebody to wear his coat and his hat. Because he was signature in that shit, right?
Yeah.
And they decided to get Al Levan. Al Levan was the running back coach, and Al puts his hat on and his coat, and they're like, and we're walking out of the locker room, and Crawford, we had this guy named Crawford Curry, who's from
Crawford Curry's from my
Florida
area.
Gator, yeah, great
yeah.
guy, man, funny ass dude. And Al Levan turns around and says, "Hey, come on, guys, come close to me." And Crawford looked at him like, "Hey, fuck you, Al. They're gonna shoot you. We're not getting anywhere near you." And I'll never forget that. That's absolutely what happened. I mean, that was absolutely what happened. And if you ever get a hold of Crawford, you remind him of that. He'll tell you.
Yeah. He owned a wing house. He had Kurt Wing House here forever, and then he sold it. And he actually goes to where my wife worked at a doctor's office. He was a patient there. He used to go there. So I hadn't seen him in a long time, but I'll have to try and find him.
Dude, that's a funny man. He's a funny dude. Yeah, I enjoyed Crawford. He was absolutely a funny guy. Yeah, there were a lot of good times, man. A lot of good times.
No, that's awesome.
Hey, Kevin, real quick, talk about what it was like. I know you said you chased some things after the Cowboys, and one of those got you reunited with Jimmy Johnson. Talk about what that was like. I mean, obviously the Dolphins, kind of a little bit different situation, but what was it like being able to reunite with Coach Johnson?
It really started out good. We were doing good as a team, but things fell apart, about 3/4 of the way through the season. But, it just wasn't the same. I mean, you can have all the magic and the motivation and the right mindset, but if you still got to have the players. And, Dan was, towards the end of his career, and we just didn't have, he didn't. That was a 1 year plan. I mean, he had full control on a 5-year plan at Dallas, and that's a whole, you have to be a damn miracle worker to make that team. And I think it went good for a while, but when push came to shove, we went to the playoffs. We got to the second round of the playoffs, I believe, but I think that was, putting lipstick on a pig. It was we just didn't have it. Didn't have the talent.
Well, it's funny. I'm so tied to Jimmy Johnson. I'll just tell you a very abbreviated story. I think I might have only told it once, but I used to work. I lived in South Florida, and I wasn't the best student, so I was working at a hotel, and my goal was I'm going to be a hotel manager. And so I started in maintenance. I made it to front desk. And this guy used to, guy stayed at the hotel all the time. I knew he had some money on the business, and he was a Dolphins fan. I was a Cowboys fan. And as you could probably notice from me, as you get me talking about the Cowboys, I kind of get charged up. And it was right about the time when he was going to get hired by Miami. And we'd go back and forth. And I told him before, I said, Jimmy Johnson's going to be in Miami. So when it happened, he came down and he goes, "Hey, man, would you ever move?" I said, "Well, I don't want to leave Florida." He goes, "Would you move to Tampa?" And I said, "Well, what would I do?" He goes, "Man, I need you to sell my stuff, because if you could sell my stuff like you sell the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to make me a lot of money." 28 years later, all the success, and I've been very fortunate and blessed. That's why I tell people I'm so passionate about the Cowboys, because in a weird way, I kind of owe them where I'm at today to be able to have season tickets and be able to get out to games and all that kind of stuff. So Jimmy Johnson's always close to my heart for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
But yeah.
Man, I agree, Mike, because like I said at the time, maybe not so close to your heart because he was grinding you into the ground. But, to see him go into that Ring of Honor and, the Hall of Fame, there's a lot of people that have that 5-year plan, and not very many are successful. And, you can get down the road, but you got to get down the road. And the reality is he's got 3 Super Bowls any way you look at it. That's his team out there. And, I'm not so sure how he did it, but he did it. And he did it extremely well.
No, he did. And Barry Switzer, another guest we had on the show, he even acknowledged. He said, "Man, make no mistake about it."
I mean, if you don't acknowledge that, then how can you have any credibility?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What?
Yeah.
Let's shift
And that's
gear.
not saying Barry Switzer wasn't a good coach. I mean, I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
no, I
I'm
get
just
it.
saying. Yeah.
He walked into a pretty good situation. He even said at Campo, it was like, hey, Barry Switzer came in and said, all I want you guys to be is loyal. He goes, he kept all the coaches. Don't change nothing. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
cruise control.
Do you follow the Cowboys now today?
I've been to some games and I watch, I try to watch the big games. I went to the championship game last year out in San Francisco. So I have
that
seen
wasn't
some
the Cowboys
games.
though.
Was that a playoff game or was that the championship game?
No, that was just last year when we played them
in San Fran.
Year before.
Yeah.
I thought you were just putting salt on the wound because I know you played for San Francisco, man.
No. It was a really unique experience because I went to high school in San Francisco, and then you're a Niners fan, and then go to Washington, and I'm all of a sudden I'm on the other side in Dallas, and and then beating the Niners, and it was crazy. It was a whole different experience for me. But I mean,
But it's a good question, a good thing, because I've always wanted to know this. So you grew up a Niners fan. You played for the Cowboys. Did we lose him?
I think we lost him.
We lost. Wait, he's back. He's back.
I'm here.
What happened? All right, there you go. What I was going to say is you played for the Cowboys. Obviously, played for the Niners. Grew up a Niners fan. So, do you go back to being a Niners fan, or you had such a great run with the Cowboys? Obviously, most of your career and winning 2 Super Bowls. Does your allegiance switch to the Cowboys permanently?
Well, I definitely watched more when Jason was the head coach. I know people didn't really appreciate his effort, but I really like Jason. I mean, he's he was my roommate. I tortured the poor kid for years. And, I think he has a heart of gold. And I really wanted him to be successful because, I mean, I knew his dad was a scout there forever. And so I was watching pretty heavily. But I really don't watch a whole lot. My son really likes the 49ers, so he'll come over sometimes. We'll watch the game, but I really don't watch a whole lot unless I know somebody that's coaching or playing. Otherwise, I'll have it on, but I'm not glued to anything.
All right. Well, I don't know if you can help with it then, because we're trying to figure out these Cowboys, and Kelly and I have been, we've been trying to figure out what the answer is. The latest thing is the hot topic is culture. Culture problem starts with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the problem. I say culture is accountability down to the players have for each other. And James Washington was on the show, and what he said always sticks with me. He said he was more worried about what the teammates were going to say if he missed a tackle. What was Michael Irvin or what would you or Stepnoski say to him on the plane ride home coming off the field? And it started with a joke because I said, well, Deion Sanders, pass interference on Michael Irvin in the championship game cost us 3 in a row. And he goes, no, he should have caught it. I don't hear nothing about no pass interference because he would have told me to make the tackle. He better have caught it. I don't care what it was. So what do you think culture means in a locker room and on a football team? Could the owner have that much impact in making things too soft?
Well, I think, I think it is too soft, period. I think, you can't pay somebody an absorbent amount of money before they earn it, and that's, like, where's your incentive to, like, you're going to have the kids. You could have paid Michael Irvin $50 million or Troy Aikman or Emmitt Smith, and you would have got, or $5 million, and you would have got the same results because they had that pride, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that pride is not, I think there's guys out there, but, like you see, it's 4th and 1 with like 40 seconds to go in the game, and the dude's tapping his helmet to go out, and you're the best running back on the field. Like, I'm not saying that happened to the Cowboys, but I've seen it happen. And, or you're not, training camp, you don't go through training camp anymore. You don't have that, you have inside drill 9-on-7 when you're just coming off the fucking ball, and you don't have that. So you're going to waste 3 or 4 weeks of your season trying to get to that level that you had in training camp. and building that bond with your buddies and shit like that. I just don't think the kids are tough, and I'm sure the guys that came before me thought I was a pussy too, and and I get it, and I really understand it now because I think today that they're just way too soft. I watched the Super Bowl and I looked at the quarterback for the 49ers, right, and he's taking pictures on the sidelines with his wife, girlfriend, and his family, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that, Jimmy Johnson. You couldn't stay on that field more than fucking 20 seconds after the game was over, and especially if you lost, which didn't happen very much, and get in that huddle to hear him get back in that locker room before he chewed your ass out. And now they're switching fucking jerseys and, basically, and the other thing I noticed in the Super Bowl this year, every guy from the 49ers came out to the coin toss without his helmet on. And every guy from the Chiefs came out to the coin toss with their helmet on. And that's all about, Jimmy had that mentality is we're here for fucking work. We're not here for fucking pictures with our wife on the sidelines or waving in the stands at some fucking, some family member that ain't going to help you win a fucking game. We're here for a fucking game. No sideshow. No, none of that shit. Let's go and let's get it done. And then, you know what? Right after the game, Jimmy would tell you, party your fucking ass off, man. Knock it out. And rightfully so, rightfully so. But until that shit's over, it's a business trip.
Yeah. And Kelly, you got in trouble for making a comment about a jersey swap. But ask Kevin his thoughts on it.
I don't like seeing the whole thing when you're playing a rival team. It's the Cowboys and the Eagles, and you see. And it so happened to be, Parsons was actually doing a jersey
against the 49ers. We got our ass whooped
against the 49ers, and you got a guy like George Kittle that's showing a shirt that says "fuck Dallas," and then we're swapping jerseys after the game, and I'm sitting there thinking, what kind of mentality? You just got your ass whooped on the field, just demolished, out physical, bullied, and you're swapping jerseys. Like, I just don't understand that mentality, and I think. I don't understand.
Kelly, we are on the same page, man. Dude, if I got my ass handed to me out there, which didn't happen before, I couldn't get in that locker room fast enough. What the fuck am I going to stand out there for? Some guys, we just got the shit beat out of us, and you want me to stand out there high-fiving you? No, man, I'm gone. I'm out. No. And that is culture. That's attitude,
That's it's attitude and everything with it. But so you went to the Jimmy Johnson getting a Ring of Honor. Obviously, you've seen the Taj Mahal of Jerry. You've seen the star. There was a guy who played for the Cowboys, and it's always interesting when they leave. They always have something to say. They love it when they're there. But he had said the problem with Dallas is they're not about football. They do tours. They do, at the facility. And I've been on some of the tours. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but they do tours. But you guys dealt with a lot of distraction in the 90s. I mean, we had the White House. We had, some discretion.
Those are different type of distractions, man. Those are not out in the open. Those are hidden distractions.
Yeah.
But you said it in the 80s. You had tons of people that are hanging out at your hotel. I mean, Cowboys have always been the spotlight. And so, I mean, do you think Jerry is more about the brand than winning? Because that's the biggest question that people ask now. I mean, what's your thoughts?
I think, I would have a hard time questioning the man's want to win. I just can't, from, the 5 years I spent there and under him, I can't question his winning. I just can't. I just think, there's, when you're an owner, he might not want to win, but there's other draws, other owners, other, family members that might, that sees money in shows and the running through the bar and all that, the fucking lights and the confetti. And I mean, man, that place was just, amazing, absolutely amazing. But I think it is a distraction. I think it's a huge distraction. It's not just come out on the field and it's a business trip. It's more of you might as well be in Vegas doing a show. It was impressive. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I thought it was pretty damn cool, but A lot of things to
You
distract.
couldn't play
you,
under
for
those
sure.
circumstances. You need to be like Rocky III, Clubber Lang. You need to be in the basement getting everything done. You don't get, you
Man,
know.
we were playing in Philadelphia, man, where it was just, I mean, that's just AstroTurf on concrete. I mean, some of those stadiums, Texas Stadium was pretty rough too, but
Yeah.
it was, you look at the cheerleaders and that's about it. It wasn't, it wasn't anything, it wasn't the show that it is now. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
I've been to other stadiums and they're not all quite that, but it's Dallas. I mean, goddamn. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of what they're known for.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, it's definitely just one of those things where you look at the Cowboys now and you see, I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think that it's necessarily that Jerry Jones doesn't want to win, but he kind of promotes that whole glamour. It's just, it seems like the team of the 90s was Jimmy Johnson. It embodied his kind of personality. It's a hardworking, I saw a clip of Jimmy and he's yelling at some offensive lineman that's running and tells him he has asthma. He tells him the fucking asthma field's over there,
Oh, yeah.
like,
I not only saw it, I was there. That was a kicker. That was
A kicker, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
kicker. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But I mean,
But that's
you
all
just
part
don't
of
see
the
that now.
takeover. I mean, like, you think any other coach has been, since the Cowboys that had the power? Jimmy had fucking balls, man. He didn't give a fuck about what Jerry thought. He didn't give a fuck. I mean, he just like, I'm doing it my way. You do your shit. I got the football end of it. And do you think anyone's walked in there with those balls since he left? Not a
Yeah.
chance.
No.
People are just happy to have that job, and
Yeah.
and if Jerry's making his hundreds of millions and the team is, on the cusp of being great and it's still going to, suck people in. Well, so
Yeah, they
be
get
it.
me to go. I go to the games, and people say, "Well, don't go to the game," but I love it, man. It's entertainment. That's how I
No,
like to.
there's nothing. I mean, like I said, if you didn't think, I mean, it's not like he's not trying to win. I mean, I think winning would just put it over the top. But I mean,
Yeah.
I would go too. I mean, it's fun as shit to go. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't realize how much you guys got all fucked up there in the stadium.
Well, we need to get you out there to the Cowboys Cave tailgate party, and you have a real.
I'm not much of a partier, so and what I party with, they don't do it down there, and they don't like it in Texas very much. So
No, it's still frowned upon, probably.
It's still frowned upon in Texas.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's an absolute shame.
But so you're, this team, and we won't get too much into it because you don't follow them enough to get it. But looking back to what it takes to be a champion, and I think of some of the battles that you had, and I watched that fight that you had with Jerome Brown, rest in peace, and then Reggie White. I mean, what was your thought process? I mean, you look like you're ready to string some dukes, man.
No way, dude. I wasn't going to touch that clown. No, that was simple. You know how good Reggie White was? We talked about this, right? Reggie White was phenomenal. And I thought if I can get this guy to punch me and get kicked out of the game, I'm going to get an easier day. And that was the absolute truth behind it. I was like, I'm trying to set this guy up. I mean, Reggie White was so good. I mean, God.
And then I saw a clip of you going after Moose Johnston.
What's that?
I saw a clip of you going after Moose Johnston.
What did he do?
I don't know. He did something. You poked it. You kind of gave him a little flip.
I was always under control. I might have talked a lot of shit, but I was always under control. I mean, I knew exactly what was going on. And Aikman would get pissed sometimes, like, calm down. I'm like, hey, I got this. I got it. But, I mean, you're dealing with some mental midgets out there and getting in their head. You need every advantage you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the practices were harder than the games. You got to block Leon Lett on third down on a one-on-one passing situation in practice, and then you get to the game and there's no Leon Lett there, or Casillas or whoever, Charles Haley. I mean, that crazy fucker, I mean, have you got Charles Haley on your show?
No, I need to get Dave Campo was afraid of him. You get him to come on the show. Dave Campo said
he might want to be afraid of him. Absolutely. Chucky's there's so many stories about Chucky out there. He is one hell of a dude. He is absolutely a great dude. And I played with him on the Niners and the Cowboys. And I think he's a wonderful guy, man. He's just maybe a little bit misunderstood.
No, I read his book, All the Rage, and it helped me understand
he
a
has
little
a
bit
book.
more.
He has a book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was long.
Yeah.
It was after he played, talking about the bipolar and a lot of the stuff that he went through and trying to figure things out. And his ex-wife kind of helped him out and stuff. And I see him at some of the games, and he seems just really happy and
he's a good
fun.
guy, man. He had a lot of game. Holy shit, he had a pass rush that wouldn't quit.
Still strong as hell. He grabbed my son, and my son almost like he didn't know what to do because he like, hey man, he gave him a big pat on the back, and my son like flew like 5 feet.
Did he? Hey, as long as he had his clothes on, you're good. Chucky was crazy, man.
Was the thing that he did to Troy Aikman? Was it true? Like he used to kind of go after him a little bit. He said used to say that Haley would go after you no matter who you were. Could be the best guy or the worst, and if you don't stand up to him, then it's just going to get turned up even more.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean he, but the thing about it was, Charles wasn't overly tough. Like he wasn't a fighter, right? I mean, but he led you to believe he was, and so like the minute you stood up to him, he would just, I mean, some guys, it's not that they weren't tough enough. They just didn't, Stepnoski, he never said shit to Charles, and Charles tried to pick on him, but he just wouldn't. He'll fuck you up on the field, but he wasn't going to take it into the locker room where if you bring it into the locker room, you might have to pay the price.
Yeah.
But some guys won't say, they'll just let it go because you're not supposed to bring it into the locker room, but sometimes it heads in there,
Well, I mean, out of all the guys that you played after, you're talking about, Haley being, a mean or, not necessarily being mean, but who was the one guy who was the, I won't say, nastiest or dirtiest player, but who was the one guy that you just had the most difficulty with? I mean, you played against some all-time greats.
Man, there's only one guy that I honestly, there's a lot of guys that, had their fair share of success on me. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
But honestly, the guy that I had, no matter how good or somebody is or how good the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman, there's always going to be one guy that has your number. And, like there was this guy that played for the Seahawks and his name was Joe Nash. And if Joe Nash got hurt, I'm going to fucking help him. I want him back up and I want him in the huddle because I literally can smoke a cigarette out there and block that motherfucker, right? and some other people would say, "Oh my God, Joe Nash was fucking unbelievable." So that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah.
But my guy was Jerome Brown. Holy fucking shit, I couldn't touch that guy. He was thank God he didn't go hard every play. If he did, if he was somebody that just had a motor that wouldn't quit, I had no chance. No chance. I mean, he was so friggin' amazing. He was sap and then some,
Wow,
and Warren Sapp was friggin' amazing too, but he was, having him and Reggie on the same line, everybody else was just a filler. I mean, they had Mike Golick out there. Fuck, everybody else was a filler, and you had to double team one of them, but you just couldn't double team both of them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And
he was a bad dude in Miami. He was bad dude in James.
I mean that but I will tell you this, that there, even though that was my guy, Jerome Brown had his way with a lot of people. A whole bunch of them, and he was. I give the man his due. He definitely earned it, and it wasn't. He didn't make it long. Obviously, he passed away, but in that short stint, still, it's 35 years probably. I'll never forget how good he was. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I could talk for 5 hours. I mean, you bring it, and
that's because you got that good dealer, Mike.
He's on that stuff that's frowned upon.
I'm on a natural high. Let me just tell you, that's how it runs in the cave.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just playing with you.
No, but what are you up to now? I mean, you say you don't go to too many. Now, if you ever come to a game, your boys got, I'm there, man. You come hang out. We have a good time. It'll be fun.
Didn't I see your helicopter pad right next to Jerry's?
That's where it's at, man. The Lear jet.
Okay.
I got a Lear
know where to
jet,
find
but I
you
go
at,
and
though.
stop. I go and stop. But what's up to now, man? How what you doing with your time?
I'm more of a little bit of a thrill seeker. I spend a lot of time in Alaska. I fish heavily all over the Pacific Northwest, but I'm a whitewater kayaker, and I like to go to Alaska for a couple weeks a year, and more in August when the weather has a chance of being nice. And I'll live on the side of the rivers for a couple weeks with my buddies, and we'll party and float down through some pretty hectic white waters. And I've been doing that for a long time. This year I turned 60, and I won a permit, and I'm going to self-guide myself down the Grand Canyon for my 60th birthday in November.
Wow.
So I'm going with my buddies. It should be a shit show. It'll be fun though. No guides. We're going to get all of our food down there, and alcohol and whatever else it entails. And it will be real. I mean, there's some quality, we're not going to take our kayaks. We're going to raft, and it will be fun, but I'll be floating the Salmon River in Idaho this year. And, I'm always on a river somewhere, especially in the spring and summertime. I don't know why, but I got a big ass dry suit, and I get my fat ass in that kayak.
How you doing?
Dude, I love it. I mean, class 4 all day long, man, no problem.
Wow.
And in Alaska, it's always there's always a step up because there's no rescue, and there's some animals out there every now and then. But I mean, I see some of it. I've been to Alaska so many different times kayaking. I've seen polar bears in the wild. I've seen all kinds of shit. I mean, some of the most beautiful places in the world, and then just cruising down, a couple 100 miles in 2 weeks, and just self-sufficient and just having a good time.
So
Well,
reality show? No reality show?
Man, they don't allow cameras out there, I mean, no.
I mean, you don't want to, like Jimmy Johnson did Survivor. I'm trying to get on Survivor. A buddy of mine, wrestling coach, he did an Alaskan where they basically had no food, no shelter. They just dropped off, and the only way the winner was the last one standing. You had to quit. I can't remember the name but he ended up winning. But you never thought of doing something like that?
No, I mean, clearly you learn good survival skills out there, but there's 14 of us go at one time, so we can carry all of our food, and I mean, you can get stranded out there for sure.
Yeah,
and it's it's fun, but go to Alaska, man. It's one of the bitchinest places in the world. I mean, I've obviously been all over, and I can't get enough.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, if you're out there in Alaska and you see a bear, I'm pretty sure that bear's sizing you up and don't want no part of you.
Man, that's what everyone says. They say, like, oh, the bears. Like, it's not the bears that are the problem. Those bears take off, man. They see you and they are friggin' gone. It's it's the moose. Moose are trouble. But really they haven't seen, where we go, they don't, you don't see. I mean, sometimes you just see just native people, and they had never seen. I mean, some literally haven't seen anything that looked like you before, and I mean, it's like everything you think it is in wild Alaska, and it's not Anchorage. You're not going to Anchorage. You're going anywhere, and there's not a lot of people there. There's a lot of people in Anchorage, but there's not a lot of people in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
and,
that's all. I mean, that's pretty damn cool. Do you keep with some of your former teammates? I know you guys did that great wall special years back. That was pretty cool. Do you guys ever get together or do anything with some of your old teammates from that era?
We've had a couple get-togethers in Dallas this last couple of years. So I've done a couple of things. I'm doing more and more now because I think it's pretty cool, and guys are getting older, and it's fun. Other teams, not really. I mean, I guess I would say, more with the Cowboy stuff because, I mean, there's great teams, it has great interest, and it's, it really is reflecting. And when you get there and you see, like offensive and defensive guys don't always mesh, and you think about, the teams that you're on, and, you're happy as, like you got along with, that team got along, everybody got along, I mean, you may have a fight on the field, but when you got inside, it was over. And that was, that's really important that everyone understood that message, and that does come from upstairs. And sometimes they wanted that fight on the field. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
But if you look at the overall picture of the whole thing, and it's nice because you laugh. I mean, you got who Joe Brodsky was, the running back coach.
The running back coach.
I mean, Joe Brodsky is like the whitest of the white dudes with an old straw hat on, and he's coaching like Emmitt Smith. Like, what the fuck is he going to tell Emmitt Smith? And I would sit there and think, but you have to understand, like, Brodsky was it was the perfect guy for the job, and Jimmy understood that, and like Coach Bro, like he was so cool. And so, like, I don't think, and those, like Emmett, I mean, he was a wonderful character any way you look. I mean, he was a nice person.
Yeah.
And, there's no way that he couldn't just take in, Brodsky or Brodsky couldn't take him in, because they just had that jive, and it just worked good. And I love looking back on, shit like that and just laughing, because the reality is Brodsky had nothing for him, but I guarantee you Emmett friggin' loved him, like absolutely loved him. And, I mean, he's not telling him how to do a spin move, and, but he's lining him up.
He's not showing or giving any examples. That's how you do it.
He had nothing for him, so, and we had Hubbard Alexander was a wide receiver coach, and, Axe was, what is he going to do? I mean, I'm sure Axe had some game in his day, but he wasn't going to tell Michael Irvin what was up. But he knew how to, he knew how to deal with these guys, and I give Jimmy a lot of credit for that. He knew how to hire the people that could, deal with the dudes that he had and get the most out of them. And I don't think you see that very much anymore.
No. I mean, he was special. That was such a special team, and that's why people make fun of us and say, "God, why do you just keep living in the past?" It's because when the past was that damn good, I mean,
it was good,
man.
It was good. It was good. Yeah, it definitely was good.
One of those things where you don't realize you're living in the good days till those good days have passed.
And as a player, I feel like that's definitely true too. Like you knew it was good, but you just you got to get away from it to realize, damn, that was it was a good time with a bunch of good dudes. Like I don't know how they pulled it off, but they pulled it off.
No.
Well, hey,
if you got a few minutes, the Cowboy fans love you. I mean, there's been a huge reaction with you coming on the show, and everyone's been waiting for this. So there was a few questions. Would you have a minute to answer some questions? Okay.
Dude, hold on, let me look around. Nope, I ain't got shit going on. My dogs are asleep, and that's it.
Well, I don't know if this is one of your friends or not that put this in there. He goes by the name I love weed, but he wanted to know what he keeps asking. What's your helmet size? What helmet size did you have?
I know exactly that. So there's a long argument, man, that Tui and I had that my helmet was bigger than Tui's helmet, and I would be like, fuck that, dude. You're fucking Hawaiian. Your head's fucking huge, Like, I mean, we went at it, And one day we were in this. I don't know if you remember this, but they had that Cowboy Cafe. I'm sure Eugene Lockhart's.
Oh yeah,
that was his place, and I think a couple other guys. And you would buy if you bought a 6-pack of beer, it would come in a helmet, an old cowboy helmet that they had gotten from the locker room, and then they had glued a T on the bottom to hold that fucking thing up, and they would put ice in there and hold all the beer in there. And we ordered a 6-pack of beer, and the helmet came to the table, and I'm looking at the helmet, and it was me and Tui, and I don't know who else was there, but it was definitely me and Tui. And I'm like, that's your fucking helmet, man. So I started peeling off shit, and I found his number inside there. And I'm like, dude, your helmet's so goddamn big that they got it at the cafe holding a 6-pack of beer in it. And I think I won that argument. I definitely think I won that argument. Yeah, and tell Saxon to go fuck himself too. Yeah, I guarantee you that's who that came from. Yeah.
Well, the username's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric Williams, you're bad. Do you have a fun Eric Williams story?
Man, I did. Nothing that just sticks off the top of my head. No,
Okay.
I mean, I just, I as a rookie, he came, he was just friggin', he really was everything that they thought he was. I mean, he was fun. I mean, we, we torch, we had Tony Wise as a coach. We just, Eric was on that little quiet, not getting a whole lot of trouble rookie type shit when I was there. So nothing really stuck out to me.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things that stuck out and a lot of fun, one time, I'll tell you the story. One time I was shit-faced. I was absolutely shit-faced. So was everyone else too. We went out and played. We were at Austin at a training camp, and we were out drinking margaritas. It was like Tui, me, DJ, Step, Alan Vinegrad. We called him Vic Vines, and we got hammered, and we had to watch the film of a preseason game, and I was particularly hammered. And I'm in the back of the meeting room, and DJ was on the first special teams. It's preseason, so he's only going to be on one. And Jimmy's pissed, because if Jimmy's in the meeting and he's talking about the film, he's fucking pissed, But I wasn't smart enough to catch on to that. And so I'm back in there, and I'm fucking. And first one comes down, and DJ does, and he's like, he's going to go critique every player down the board, all 11 guys, and he says, "Good job, DJ," and I yell, "Good job, DJ." And to make a long story short, I must have said, we were in the fourth fucking quarter, and DJ hadn't been on the film for 3 quarters, and I'm still yelling every time he rewinds it, "Good job, DJ." And in between, I don't know if it was T. Wise or HUD was the coach. They were like, giving me the shut the fuck up, man. We're gonna get in trouble here. Quiet down. There was 85 guys in the room. I got up to go get some water, and when I filled up my water in my cup, and what I didn't know was Alan Vinegrad had filled my seat with water. It was one of those cafeteria chairs, and when I sat down, it just went whoosh, and I started laughing, and my coach was like, "Shut the fuck up." And then so I was too drunk, and then when the lights kicked on, the meeting was over. Jimmy ran back there, right? He ran to the fucking back. He looked right at me, and he said, "Who the hell was yelling, 'Good job, DJ'?" And I looked at him, and I said, "Coach, I said it one time." I swear to God, dude, I must have said it 200 fucking times. And he told me later in life, he goes, "Man, I came so close to cutting you for doing that," because we laughed about it later, And he goes, "I came so close to cutting." And Jimmy had the balls to he didn't give a shit. He'd have cut me in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And that was the best part about going to the inaugural thing when they put him in the Ring of Honor, because damn, that dude remembered some shit, and it was kind of that's why I like going, because it does trigger a lot of good memories and good times we had, because I definitely got my money's worth out of that league. There's no two ways about it, and I'm still kicking, I'm still going, and and if it ended tomorrow, nobody could say it. I had a fucking blast.
Yeah.
And there's nobody that would tell you any different, man. You would be hard pressed to have somebody that had a better time than I did.
Yeah. Now, did you have a good time in the Pro Bowl with some guy with a Band-Aid? You allow some guy with a Band-Aid on his nose punch you? I mean, you allow him to throw down with you, or what?
He didn't punch me. He punched Todd. Well, he did punch me. He did punch Todd Stussy. And I didn't like the motherfucker anyway, so I chased him down and fucking I tagged him in the back of the head, and then he hit me, and then I kicked him in the balls, and then I was going home early.
Pro Bowl game,
ejected from the Pro Bowl. It's gonna be like a record.
honestly, they should have fucking gave me some money for it because it, like at least nobody ever watched that goddamn thing. But my buddy, I played with this dude named Steve Wisniewski, a good friend of mine still to today. And Wiz said, hey, I don't give a shit what you do when you go to the Pro Bowl, but you go full speed for 4 quarters. And he said they're going to try to lull you to sleep. And, hey, man, let's not get hurt. And, hey, let's not get hurt. Then the 4th quarter comes around. That fucker blows by you for a sack and gets the MVP. I wasn't falling for that shit. And, I didn't make the 4th quarter anyway, but still, I wasn't going to get lulled to sleep. And once, it goes back to Jimmy. Once you hit the field, man, you go fucking full speed, or, Yeah. And like, I talked to Butch Davis at that thing and other people, and like, I don't get to this point in my career if it's not for those guys, because I was the constant fuck off that, I didn't lift weights, I didn't condition, I didn't do shit. I was just naturally gifted that I could get away with it. But, I mean, if, Jimmy, they sat me down and made me understand, that this could be a good setup for you if you just, quit fucking off. Yeah. And they made it clear there's a time and a place for fucking off, and it's just not all the time.
Yeah.
So you learn, and you leave that team and you go to another team and you understand that now, So I mean, I give him a ton of credit for, not all on off the field problems that he has to deal with. It's on the field, that's an on the field problem if you're fucking off too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have between the 2 Super Bowls did you have a favorite out of the 2? I mean, obviously the first Super Bowl, you're kind of, it's the culmination of what you've worked for, your whole life is to get there. That's what the goal is. But, then going back to back and winning a, second and being the defending, was there a favorite of those 2 Super Bowls?
Man, for me personally, yeah, there's no doubt there's a favorite, and it's the Atlanta game. I got really super lucky. Jimmy would always, you would get your captain from your performance the week before. And I don't know, somehow, some way, we were playing Philadelphia in a playoff game, and I got the captain, which was it was a playoff. I don't want to say championship game, but pretty goddamn close. And or maybe it was a Niners game and a championship game, but somehow Eric Williams wanted to be captain because he had a lot of family in town, or was that Philadelphia? I don't know, something. And obviously it could have been the last game of the season, and he's like, hey, dude, I mean, we were, obviously playing next to each other and, very, friends. And he's like, hey, I'd like to be captain, And I said, fuck, man, knock it out, great. And I said, but if I went to Jimmy and I said, hey, Eric wants to be captain. He's got all these people in town. If you're cool with that, I'm cool with that. And I said, but, after we win, I definitely want to be captain for the Super Bowl. And he's like, he didn't say, I don't think he said yeah or whatever. So Eric was the captain and we won. And then he's like, all right. So I got to be captain in the Super Bowl. So that made it, that made it pretty special. And then the drive after the halftime with the, running the same fucking play and just putting it down their throat. That was just, I don't like have a lot of shit in my house of memory, but I have a picture of that over here. And that's, to run the same play is just, I mean, that's just, not only did you get your ass kicked, but you got your ass kicked by the same play over and over. And they just couldn't hold up. And it was, so that's, definitely the second one is more for me.
Yeah. Did there was a question from Doug with Leon Lett in Super Bowl 27. Did you guys obviously you razzed him a little bit, or you guys were beating the hell out of the Bills so much it wasn't a big deal when he got caught from behind by Beebe to strip the ball out?
He took so much hate for that. It was pretty extreme, the letters and stuff he was getting. And once again, you go back to Jimmy and how he handled that. He knew how to handle that. Leon was, he was a different dude. He wasn't, he was very, very talented and maybe not so emotionally strong upstairs. And, you know, I mean, there was some shit that was coming through that was absolutely uncalled for. And no man deserves that. I mean, and you know, we maybe joked about it. I think we maybe joked more about, or maybe, you know, like it hurt a little bit more in that Dolphins game, on that Thanksgiving Day game. But you know, when you make a mistake and it's not a lack of effort or a lack of wanting to win, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can. If you're ill prepared, then you can just jump on somebody. But if it's just you thought you were doing right and going hard and just fucking, you know, not thinking, it's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we if you ever go to Dallas, you know, you need to give your boy a holler, because I'd love to meet you in person. I don't want to stand next to you. You're like 6'7". So it's never a good look for me. But I don't have you in the cave either, so I got to find something to see if I can get you to sign, because I've got so many great linemen in the cave. I don't have you.
Shit. You know, I don't have a man cave, you know, but I'll find something, because I got boxes of shit up there in the garage. I'll look through and I'll find something.
No, it'd be
nobody ever asks anymore. You know, I do get some occasional.
Do you get some fan mail?
You know, I try to hide, but yeah, I do get some.
It's amazing how people could find you.
Man, thank God they're not the tax collector. Yeah, you know, man, like, you know, people, you know, they care. You know, people really, you know, enjoy. You know, people are you know, you know, it's a job at some point, but you realize, man, people are tied to this shit, and they really, really care. And you know, to me, it's like, you know, it's great to remember this stuff. It really is nice to, you know, because otherwise I don't really, you know, think about it a whole bunch. Super Bowl Sunday, you think about stuff, or you see, you know, you see your buddies, or you know, I see Troy in an 8 Learjet now.
Selling beer.
Yeah,
selling the 8 beer.
You know, man, he gets to that kind of jet, he should be picking us up for a game. My God,
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah. No, I mean, but everything that guy does is, you know, it's first class, man. You know, and I mean, I hadn't talked about him at all, but I mean,
I was gonna say is, and I apologize, but I'm glad you said something, because he gets a lot of, you know, oh, well, he was carried by the team. He's not one of the great quarterbacks because they ran the ball so much. I mean, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves as a Hall of Famer and a great quarterback in that era, does he?
Well, I mean, if whoever's not giving that respect, who really gives a fuck about those people anyway? You know, like that dude threw fucking darts, man. I mean, he absolutely threw fucking darts. I mean, I was all about headhunting, you know, so like I'm, you know, like there's an offensive lineman, there's a timer in your head, you know, when that ball should be gone. And, you know, if it's a 3-step drop or a 5 or a 7, you know, you have a timer, whether you like it or not. It's fucking, sometimes it's early and your timer's off, you know, but you have a good timer. And man, I can distinctly remember those fucking balls hitting those guys in the pads, you know, like you could hear that shit and just take off downfield. And you look at some of the passes he threw, like over the top and then underneath somebody. I mean, how the fuck do you do that? You know, like, and then, you know, organizing, you know, a bunch of fucking inmates. I mean, you know, that's kind of the truth. You know, I mean, these guys need to be in jail, and, you know, and some of them were, you know, and no, and I mean, that's, but the professionalism, you know, hey, where's Troy at? You know, like he didn't do the fucking partying we did, and he took shit so serious and never left a stone unturned. And obviously that's his whole life, right? I mean, you know, he's starts out, you know, doing the beer thing, and that shit's going to be successful, and that's all he knows, you know. I mean, that's how he approaches things, and, you know, thankful as shit that, you know, he wasn't at that party, or wasn't, you know, I mean, he was fun, but, you know, his fun was limited because his fun was winning. And you say, you know, people could say whatever they want. I was in that huddle. I was on those teams, and I saw exactly what he did. And that dude's Hall of Famer, first ballot like he should have been. And, you know, everyone else can go fuck themselves is really what I think.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'll
I like
say
that.
it, man. I don't give a
No, I
shit.
appreciate it. I mean,
I think
you got all these armchair guys, man, right? Kelly got all these armchair guys.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, we got that T-shirt thing with the Twisted Gorilla. We need to get that, you know, fuck everybody else. that's what
I mean, you know
put that
what?
on a
If you're
T-shirt.
going to even argue his Hall of Fame credentials, you have no
Right.
knowledge of the game. You have no knowledge of the game. You know, there's other players, I'm sure, at the quarterback position that you could argue a lot more than. But you know what? When you got 3 rings on your fingers, it's time to be quiet.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just, you know, sometimes you got to. If you don't like them, hey, that's great. Just swallow it, man. Just deal with it. You know, it's just because people hate the Cowboys sometimes.
No,
you know?
well, yeah.
There's a big bias.
I think something that says really a lot about him as a person, character, and everything else is when Michael Irvin, I still remember it, why he went into the courtroom with his fur coat on, beyond me. But the only, you know, Troy Aikman, who was he was a star on the team, the quarterback and everything. He was one of the guys that was there to support him. I mean, and Michael Irvin talked about it a lot, obviously, you know, in a lot of different books and on radio shows and stuff. But I mean, that just shows the kind of leader he was, the kind of person he was. And that's where, again, you get back to the culture of what you develop. You guys had such a camaraderie and just love for each other that I think you're more worried about disappointing each other than yourselves, you know? And I think that's what really made that team so special and so loved. Because the fans like me, you know, even though I was just getting out of high school, so I was still a young kid, but it's something that was just, I still felt it then, and I feel it now when I see you guys together and you see the get-togethers you guys do, you know, whether it be on a show or even the Ring of Honor with Jimmy Johnson. I saw some excerpts and things like that. It's pretty special.
Yeah. You know, you don't really think about it in those terms, but it's absolutely the truth. You know, I mean, like, you know, if you gave up a sack, you know, there was always somebody there. You know, it didn't happen very often, but when he did, you know, they were like, you know, fuck, I should have helped. You know, I mean, it wasn't like, God damn it, you know, but, you know, there was a lot of fear, you know, because the way Jimmy handled it, you know, you had to be the best of the best not to be insecure in your job. Like, you know, like, and he always had, you know, like, I was convinced that he had a book upstairs and he would flip it every day. And then today was, I'm cutting somebody to get everyone's attention. And the person I'm going to cut is pretty fucking good. Not, you know, not like, you know, the last guy on the roster, but, you know, Curvin Richards, the running back after the, you know, the December game right before the playoffs. That shit, I believe that shit was planned. You know, not that kid personally, but I believe, like, you know, if there's somebody that fucks up, I'm going to grab everyone. And, you know, like, God damn, he cut Curvin Richards. He was our backup running back. You know, what the fuck, you know? And that goes around the locker room, and then all of a sudden people are like, shit, that could be me, you know? And then you work a little bit harder, you know? I mean, he was amazing at, you know, just working your mind. And like I said, you know, some guys didn't know it, but some guys did know it.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. Kelly and I don't know if you didn't, I'm sure you didn't see it, but Kelly and I talked about it. And it's kind of the message that you're saying. There was 2 Cowboys for the Green Bay Packer playoff game that organized a victory party at a club before the game even started. They were advertising all over social media. And I said, if Cowboys wanted to change culture, they would cut both of them to send a message, right? I mean, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ramifications for the salary cap, but I'm sure before Jimmy cut those dudes, he wasn't in there counting the fucking chips and saying, can we afford to cut this guy? It was like, And, man, you know, I don't think 25 years bringing Jimmy back to that organization in whatever capacity he's going to be in, is he going to be as soft as they are now? So I think maybe it's a good thing. Just, you know, the dude's a winner any way you look at it, and to not have, you know, access to, okay, maybe you guys are being a little bit too soft here, and a little bit of that old school, get it on or get the fuck out. You know, you know, if you don't want to be here in the off season, given everything you got, I'll get somebody else to do it. That was truly his attitude, and that was the truth. I mean, that wasn't going to happen with Emmett, but that sure was going to happen with me or another offensive lineman or a linebacker. I mean, because, you know, they'll fucking throw somebody back out there. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
because they believed in the team, they didn't believe in the individual.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now Jerry's got, there was a thing that came out not too long ago that said Jimmy is officially kind of back into the fold, in terms of maybe being in Jerry's ear a little bit. And there was a debate about, how much really could that affect things. And from my perspective anyway, I'm like, look, even 5% of Jimmy Johnson into the Cowboys culture, can't be anything but a bad thing, because I saw him in that Green Bay game at halftime. He's on TV and you could just tell Jimmy was pissed. He basically gave a speech that I wish they would have broadcast in the locker room, because, the Cowboys team as a whole are just getting their asses kicked. And there's not, it's just, it doesn't look, when the Cowboys would lose a game back in the 90s, you would just see guys that looked visibly upset. They're going up and down the sideline, whether it's Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, going up there and just trying to hype people up. They're not going to accept losing. And it's just, I think that's what upsets us fans about the team now, is it just seems like that losing in the biggest moments, these playoff games, is just almost, it's like it's accepted. You don't really see anybody fired up. You don't see anybody upset. You don't see anybody chewing anybody's ass anymore. And it's just, it goes to part of that, the whole culture and the ideal that the team is soft. And I don't know what the cure is to change that, but it's definitely something that we noticed from watching your teams back in the 90s that is just lacking on this current Cowboys team right now.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. Even if it's as small as scouting, the guy's, a talent genius. If I was the owner, I would definitely let him put his hands on as much as he wants to, but you're bringing in a former coach and then you got a head coach and then you're fucking with that, matrix, and it's just, I'm sure it's a paycheck. Yeah. It's a paycheck. It a well-deserved one too. You know what? Arguably in 5 years, the Cowboys have never seen a better coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I respect the hell out of Tom Landry's game too, but what he did in Dallas, what Jimmy did in Dallas is, show me somebody else who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yep. Still waiting. So, but man, hey, we don't keep you on it, but I tell you what, I'd love to have you on again, because just so much fun, and the fans, the fans just been going crazy over it. So it is awesome to get the honor to have you come into the cave, talk some Cowboys, talk a lot of the memories. Makes a guy like me. I'm not up to your your level yet, but I'm getting close. So
man, you got more shit on your walls than I do.
Well, hey man, I'm gonna find something. I gotta get something for you to sign for me. I'm gonna find something.
I'll dig around. I'll definitely dig around for you.
No, that would be an honor, and it'd be a good spot. But I do appreciate you coming into the cave and hanging out with us, and like I said, sharing some great memories. And I always tell the guys in the 90s, if you had a good time, if one of your teammates, one of your buddies, if they just love coming in, just reminiscing and telling stories. Kelly and I this is what I love to do. It's not my full-time job. I got a job, but I love doing it.
No doubt, man. I'll get somebody to come on there and tell you their side of things.
I want to hear them tell me about you. Now I want to hear their story. Yeah.
Man, I guarantee they got something to say.
All right. Well, Kevin, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming into the cave, man. It was a true honor, and I appreciate it. Thank you for the love of the hype videos. I'm glad. I'm not as crazy as you think, so but it's fun.
You were pretty tampered down. I was just wondering, this might have been too long. You might need to get back to the to your guy out there in the back. You guys have a great night.
All right, man. Take care. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Kevin.
All righty.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye. Oh man, what a good time, Kelly.
That was good. That was good shit, man. Unfiltered, some great stories, and man, if that can't get you hyped up, this is why we talk about the whole glory days. This is why we reminisce on those days and those times, because it was a better time. And and like he said, there was different distractions. They were off the field. But you look at that Cowboys team, man, they partied.
They got in a lot of trouble. And hey, everyone who came in, we don't even get a chance to say it, but hey, make sure you guys subscribe, like, share it. I mean, obviously the views have been off the chain, the comments, we appreciate everything. But this is what we do, man. This is what Kelly and I have been working on, and the rest of everyone in the cave. Believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, Kelly. Kevin was our 28th college football player that we've had into the cave. Isn't that crazy? And it's only been like a year and a half. I mean, it's just amazing. A lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of players. And the more people that we get in here, the more eyeballs, the more subscribers, the more likes on the channel, the more the credibility grows, and the more we're able to bring in here to you guys. Because I know, looking at the chat, looking at the viewers, I know that Cowboys Nation enjoyed the shit out of this one.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, hey, keep showing the support, keep showing the love. And, we're going to keep on bringing the championship caliber players into the cave. And, we got Campo scheduled soon. I had to reschedule everything, but got him coming. So, hey, it's a lot more to come, Cowboys Nation. And, great turnout tonight and a lot of great stories.
Yeah, no, I mean, talking about that team and really into the culture, if you got a minute, Kelly, well, because we kind of wrapped up, and he doesn't follow the Cowboys today. He's out there, hunting and well, didn't really say hunt, but fishing and kayaking and doing all that kind of stuff. But so he couldn't really get on the cold. But what is your, I kind of put a tweet and I did a video about what Schultz said. Me personally, that stuff don't bother me, what he said.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of opinions on the culture. I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Your opinion?
Well, to kind of a two-part thing, to address what Kevin said in terms of the softness of this new, kind of the new generation and stuff. And how about, the NFLPA put in the thing where they can't do the old school practices. You can only have so many padded practices, but that's through all 32 teams, right? So I don't think you can pinpoint that and say that's what in particular makes this Cowboys team soft, right? I think he was just talking as a broad spectrum. But when it comes to the Cowboys team, there's a problem. And it's obviously has something to do. And culture is the word that gets thrown around. Everybody says culture. But I mean, it's been a 29-year span. We went through multiple quarterbacks. We went through multiple coaches, multiple Hall of Fame players, right? But yet we still can't get over that hump. And I do think that it has something to do with, that star, it's that glitz, it's the glamour. I don't necessarily think what Dalton Schultz said. I don't think that has any bearing. I don't think that if you're a professional athlete and there's a tour going by and you're lifting weights, I don't think all of a sudden you're going to stop lifting weights and that's going to distract you from getting in that last rep. And that's what I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I just think that it's, it's kind of Hollywood. I mean, that's who the Dallas Cowboys are, right? They're kind of Hollywood, and it's too many individuals, and because we've said this before, too many individuals, and not just enough people coming together collectively as a group to accomplish that one goal. And I think that's an issue. And how do you fix that? I don't know. Is it a Mike McCarthy thing where he can go in and he can continue to try to embed his personality on the team like Jimmy Johnson did? Is it a Jerry Jones thing? Is he an enabler? I mean, I don't really know, but I mean, there's something there that makes this team not able to win in the moment. And I said earlier today, it's kind of hard to say culture when you've seen this team win 36 games the last 3 years.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, that's a hard thing.
Yeah, when you talk about culture, if you think it's a bad culture, how do you win with a negative culture? I think our problem is when it comes to the postseason, it's that lack of a killer mentality. It's the lack of players holding themselves accountable, like Gogan talked about. These players hold themselves accountable, plan for the man next to you. Like what did he say? He said, I'd fight for that guy. It's that kind of stuff. You don't see that with this team. It's lacking.
No, and you said something during that interview with Kevin that stuck in my head. Could not agree more. It's like they accept losing. And you heard what Kevin Gogan said. Losing, it was unacceptable. And if they lost, Jimmy Johnson made everything very uncomfortable to where you didn't want to lose because he made it miserable to lose. And here, it's just it seems accepted. And I'm not saying that they don't go out to win. I'm saying they like the one thing I would say. I'm trying to find the best words for it. They hated losing more than they liked winning in that era. And I just don't think it's that now. I think if they lose, it's like, hey, it's like you said with the jersey swap. And I mean, it's all right, jersey. I mean, maybe we're making a big deal about it, but to me, it's the mindset. Like, if I'm losing, I want to get out of here. Like he said, you couldn't get me off the field fast enough. It's the same thing with the Super Bowl. I can't believe the other team is out there while this team's celebrating. I didn't see that. I mean, but there's just no way I'd want no part of that. I'd get me the hell out of here. And I just don't think that's the culture that's in Dallas, is to hate losing, more than you like winning, and just make it to where it's just, you've got to win. Winning's all you can do. They play the old Jerry Jones clip. We must win, all that story. And I know it's easy to throw it on Jerry, and I get it. And I think, like I said, Cowboys got to win in spite of Jerry. So I'm not going to back off that statement. But what I'm going to say is, this team's talented. This team's been talented. This team, they've had talented teams. They've gone, not in the history of the Cowboys have they gone, 3 straight 12-win seasons. I think in the 90s they did it, right? 92, 93, 94. I mean, it's been so long since they've done it. I don't even know if they did it. 92, I think they might have won 11 games. So I could be wrong. Someone correct me. But it hadn't happened very often. So I guess what I'm saying is, they're a pretty damn good team. Why are they coming up short in the postseason? Because that's really where it's at.
What's the $1 million question?
Front runners, soft. You heard the teams that we're playing against say that before the game. I mean, that's got to resonate to me. Hey, enough's enough. It's over. It stops now, and I'm going to have that mentality, and that's what they need. I don't know. That's why I say they need to bring people in with that mentality, because it spreads.
Yeah, well, I mean, and part of it, like Kevin said when he was talking about, guys getting paid before they've earned it. And I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to say that I'm point straight at the quarterback and say that Dak hasn't earned it, right? But, you sit there and we talk about these players and we talk about the money that they're going to get. Every one of them wants to get the bag. Every one of them wants to get that, as much money as they can get, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants, that's what everybody wants. And with the Cowboys, obviously you've got each player getting paid. Now Dak's ready to set the market. And you look at it, it's just kind of the way that it is, and everybody accepts it. But it's also like, if you're going to get that and you're going to make that money, like, every single thing that you should do, I mean, honestly, it should be live, breathe, and eat football, blood, sweat, and tears, holding your teammates accountable. And I do think Dak has done a great job being a leader in terms of, I mean, he built a football field in his damn backyard. He gets people over there and he does things like that. But at the same time, I also think there's something to it that, I'm not one of those guys that says, hey, he should take a pay cut or he should take less money. But if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the big picture of this, and if I can say, hey, get me a running back, but hey, we need this amount, you know what? I'll tell you what, take 10 off this deal, because 10 million, obviously, because of the fact that in Dallas, you can have a brand outside of football. And I feel like that's what a lot of these players do. They're concerned about building their brands and not the brand. And the brand is the Dallas Cowboys. And how you build that brand is coming together as a group. We've talked about this so many times. Coming together as the collective of a group and accomplishing that one goal to win a Super Bowl. Because if you do that, I mean, you're talking legend status amongst Cowboys Nation and the Cowboys franchise. You're talking about bringing a Super Bowl to a team that's been in a drought for 29 years. There used to be that pride about wearing a star on your helmet, that it meant something, that there was pride in it. You wouldn't catch Cowboys players getting called soft. You wouldn't catch them being called front runners. And at some point, there has to be pride and personal accountability in each one of these players, where they got to say, we're sick of fucking losing.
Yeah. It's got to be enough's enough. I mean, there's got to be, and they've got, I mean, I know Parsons, I know these guys have it. It's just, what is what's not getting over the hump for them, to play big in big games. I know we got a comment. It's not the postseason. It's also the tough games. And yet the tough road games. I mean, that's really where it's at. The road games. They've beat good teams at home, but the road games, the 49ers, Philly on the road, the Bills on the road, the Chiefs a couple years ago on the road, the games that you need that dog mentality, that us against them. That's the ones where they struggle. And it's like you and I said, if we don't get off to a fast start, it's trouble. It's trouble for the Cowboys because it's like they fall apart, or they just don't, they kind of, I don't want to say give up, but it's just like they panic. It's like Green Bay game. You and I both knew that, first about 10 minutes is like, hey man, this is not going to be very good. Probably within the first 6 minutes, it's not going to be very good.
No, I mean, if this team gets punched in the mouth, it's, let's just call it what it is. It looks like a soft team. It looks like a finesse team. It doesn't look like a physical team. This team don't look physical, and they lack physicality. And how do you fix that physicality? Because I refuse to believe that these players don't have that in them. They're football players. Football is a physical sport.
Yeah.
You can't go out there and win 12 games without having some kind of level of physicality to you already. But it's got to be that killer instinct. It's got to be, if you get punched in the mouth, well, guess what? We're going to punch you back. Yeah. And it's not that get punched in the mouth and then you're just sitting there with that dazed look on the sideline like you don't know what to do. And we've seen that so many times with several of our players. First and foremost, I've mentioned it many times with Dak Prescott. He gets that glazed look on his face. And when things were happening with Troy Aikman, and you see him marching up and down the sidelines, getting in everybody's ass like, hey, do your job. I'm holding you accountable. Do your job. That's the kind of thing we need. And you see it from people, whether it be Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, two of the greats. I understand. I'm not saying Dak is those guys, but you've seen some of the great leaders along the way. Quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, you see those guys. They do that. They take their team and they lead and they hold these guys accountable. And sometimes I think that's lacking from this team. The leadership is lacking from this team. You just don't know who is the leader on this team, because I can't really tell you right now who the leader on this team is. I mean, I think that it should be Dak Prescott. There's a lot of people that would say it's Dak Prescott, he's the leader, but have we seen him lead in those big moments? Not in the postseason. We haven't seen him take the reins and do it. When the whole thing with CeeDee Lamb happened, it's Mike McCarthy over there talking to CeeDee Lamb. It should have been Dak Prescott, in my opinion. Dak Prescott goes over and calms CeeDee Lamb down and says, hey, man, look what we've done this season. We had an outstanding season, record-breaking season with me throwing you the ball. Calm down. Let's come back. Let's get it this next drive. But instead, the Cowboys end up having a meltdown, and both sides of the ball. Defense can't stop anybody, and everything just unravels. And we've seen it happen way too many times. And again, it's just hard to put your finger on it and figure out, okay, this is the one thing that's causing it. And that's $1 million question. If we knew the answer to that, me and you would be running the Dallas Cowboys right now. So, but we just got to hope that they can get this thing figured out and get the right players in here and get some of those guys out. Because like you talked about, and Gogan even mentioned it when he talked about, Jimmy told him, he goes, I was this close to cutting you. And Gogan was a key piece on that offensive line. If Jimmy Johnson is willing to cut a guy like that, but you don't have that with this Cowboys team. The fact that you did have a Sam Williams and you did have a Turpin sitting there planning a pre-game post-party victory before the game was even played against the Packers, Jimmy Johnson guaranteed would have cut both of their asses. Yeah. Guaranteed. And there's not that kind of accountability on that team. They ain't worried about it because Jerry ain't going to let it happen. He's not going to let Mike cut any guys unless Jerry wants to cut those guys. And I do think that part of it is a problem.
No, that's the part with Jerry that is if you're going to talk a culture problem, that's it. But I like to your point, I still think it's the players control it. I mean, the players, it's like we say, it's not the talent, it's in between the ears and in the heart. And I'm not saying these guys don't have a heart. I'm not saying they're not smart, but it's just that drive and want to be the best. And like I said, to hate losing and despise it more than anything else and put the extra stuff in to make it happen. And we've got, like I said, Dak Prescott, people can hate on him. People can do whatever. he's still one of the top quarterbacks. I mean, he was second in MVP. He's still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Hate him or not, I mean, that's the facts. It's what's going on in the playoffs with this team, and it's leadership, and that's why free agency. It's going to be here. Your boy's not going to be here next week, so I'm not going to be able to. I may do a quick snippet, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen with this team. Are you expecting to hear some traction, to see them bringing stuff in? Are they going to just sell us on the same thing and bring the band back together? Because I don't think you bring the band back together. You got to make changes. You got to shock and awe a little bit. You got to do something to kind of change things up a little bit. And you can't rely on the draft to kind of improve everything. They've got to bring the pieces in, the free agents, to do it. Don't you agree or no?
I do agree, but I don't have much hope in them doing much of anything right now. I mean, they're kind of stagnant on a Dak Prescott deal. That's the first domino that has to fall, is him getting extended. I don't see the Cowboys rushing to do that. There's other teams that are starting to make signings. There's teams that are starting to get their guys locked up. The Cowboys, you don't really hear much movement on that end. In fact, what you hear is some of the same stuff that they always say. You got Jerry talking about how Dak needs to play better and this and that, trying to leverage in public, a contract. And I don't feel like that. I feel like that's messy. The Cowboys working out in the open, I feel like that's messy for them. I feel like that the fact that the Cowboys, after the shitty performance that they had against the Packers, historically bad performance in the playoffs, I might add, you called it one of the worst playoff performances we've ever had. I might have to agree with that. Number 2 seed and the 1 seed and get waxed at home.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did nothing after that loss. Nothing. Think about that. Dan Quinn should have been fired for that performance alone. Dan Quinn was allowed to stick around, interview for jobs while all the other defensive coordinators are getting snagged up around us, right? And I'm not sitting there saying that I don't think that Mike Zimmer is going to be a good D coordinator, but there were several other ones out there, but we let Quinn sit there. I mean, literally nobody was fired. Nobody was cut, nothing. I mean, and that right there, that don't sit right with me. It don't sit right with me. And now you're hearing Stephen Jones make the comments about, he started to talk the money thing again, and that they got to sign up their own guys and this and that. So I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not very encouraged at all that this Cowboys team is going to go out and do anything different than what we've seen the past few off seasons. I mean, obviously last season we had the Gilmore thing, Gilmore and Cooks, which was nice to see, and they were both nice additions. But I don't know, man. I'm just not very optimistic about it right now. Things are moving at a snail's pace for the Cowboys already. And it's just not giving me good vibes right now.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're wrong. And Doug, he threw Henry's name out there, so I throw it out. I have a beer, a Twitter bet for some beer. If the Cowboys were to get Henry, my man Wedge said that it's going to be reminiscent of Eddie George. And I don't know if you remember when Eddie George was here for a quick minute. He just basically hit a wall and he was done. I don't think so. I think Henry has tread left on the tire. I think his style of running. Yeah. He delivers a lot of punish more than he takes it. So it's a little bit different for him. So you heard Pollard possibly coming back and might, obviously take less money. Which I wouldn't have an issue with if they still go out and get a 1. I don't want to. I'd be really
run it back with Pollard
if he came back 1. So, what's your thoughts on the running back situation with Pollard? Would you be happy with that if he came back, bring the band back together, or do you got to see? Would you like to see a veteran, or would you be happy if they just drafted one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm fine with them bringing Pollard back, but I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him at the 1 again, and I don't think really at this point that you can afford to do that again. We saw the results of it, and whether that had to do with Pollard's leg injury or not, I'm not gambling on Pollard being my 1 going into this. As far as the Derrick Henry, I like Derrick Henry, and I think that the fact that if you could pair a Derrick Henry with a Tony Pollard, then I think you have to give less carries to a guy that's a little bit on the older side of the running backs, and you'd have to give him a little less carries, and you can split those carries. Now, if you get split in carries, you see what happened when it was Zeke and Pollard. And when it was the Zeke and Pollard show, that was a pretty good show to watch. When it was the Pollard show by himself, and not so much. It was like the sequel that you wish you would have not paid a movie ticket to go see, right? And so I think that if you bring a guy like Derrick Henry in, I think he does. I think he brings that physicality. He's that smash mouth back that can get you tough yards. He's one of those backs that can pound. He basically makes it to where in the fourth quarter you don't want to tackle him. And then you bring a guy like Tony Pollard when the defense is already tired from tackling a freight train like Derrick Henry, and that's when Pollard gets to bust off those long yards, and we see him with the long touchdown runs that we saw when he was back there behind Zeke, and it was more of that thunder and lightning type combination. So I absolutely think that we should. I'd like to see one of the free agent guys, and Henry, I think, would be a perfect fit for this team. I think also when you have physicality like that, it spreads throughout the team. I kind of talked back and went back a little bit to the days of Marion Barber. You saw how that used to spark the offense, man. He'd make one of those big physical runs, and then everybody, it spreads and it's contagious. And I think a back like Henry can definitely bring some much needed physicality to a team that has appeared very soft last year.
Yeah. And I think on the flip side, I think that's what a linebacker could do for the defense. So, your thoughts on linebacker as well. I mean, if you were going to say if they just signed two guys, I mean, would you be happy if they signed a big free agent running back and good top free agent linebacker? If that was their two signings, would you call that a success, or do you need to see more activity in free agency?
I think that, I'm not one of those people that thinks that they're going to be able to go out there and spend a ton of money, but I think that they can snag up a couple of, I think they could get at least two, top tier of the free agents. I really do. And if it was a running back and a linebacker, I'd be okay with that, because I think that then those are our two areas of weakness, in my opinion, is those two areas. Then I think you can build on the other areas, and I think you can fill some of those other areas of need via the draft. But yeah, I really, that's really what I think that they should do. And, and you're starting to see some of these guys, these linebackers getting cut and released right now. The kid from the Chargers, I believe, he's a name that's been getting mentioned. I know
the Bills cut half their team. So
who's that?
The Bills. The Bills had to cut a bunch of people to get.
They've been cutting a lot of people on their team. So there's been a lot of people that have been released, and I think that there's going to definitely be a market out there for these guys, but the Cowboys should be in that market.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd say Edgar. I saw Edgar in there. We need to see more than a lot. I mean, what other positions would you say? Edgar, if you're still hanging with us, I mean, what other positions do you guys want to see? Offensive line, obviously, Biotish is probably going to be sent packing, on his way. I don't know if they're going to re-sign him. Tyron Smith, which I don't know if you and I talked about Tyron Smith. I can't remember if it was last week when we had the show or not, but obviously Tyron Smith may not be bringing. Obviously, it doesn't look like they're going to bring him back. About Tyler Smith could go to left tackle, Bass at guard. Do you draft a center? What do you do there? What's your thoughts?
Well, and I think that Tyler Smith is the Cowboys' chess piece right now. And the reason I say that is because the fact that they do have the versatility to slide him out to tackle if need be. And he's played solid and showed that he could play solid there. So I think the Cowboys could look at it from two perspectives. They could draft a tackle. Tyler was a tackle. They've slid him to guard, obviously, and he's played great at guard. But they could draft a guy that's played multiple positions. So if they can get a guy that they think has versatility at both positions, they have that to where they can say, look, we're going to try him out at left tackle. If it doesn't work, maybe we can slide him inside the left guard. It'd be a better fit at the guard. Then we can slide Tyler Smith out to left tackle. So they have that chess piece there, which I think is a good thing. And then, you've got Hoffman, who is on the roster. And I'll be honest with you, I thought he played pretty good in spell of Biotish last year. And I think he's an option for the Cowboys at center that they're probably looking at right now. And with me, the whole Tyron Smith thing is I love the guy. Hats off to him for his services with the Dallas Cowboys. And I've said that I thought they were going to bring him back. And I said, I thought it would be for the right price. They could bring him back. But at the same time, I'm not one of those people that's sitting there and thinking that because we're going to walk away from Tyron Smith right now, that is, the end all be all. And all of a sudden our offensive line is going to fall way off the map. I just don't think that, because this year I feel like was an outlier for Tyron Smith. I feel like he played the most games he had played in a while. And there was that thing out there, well, they're arresting him and not practicing him during the week. That was the key, that we found the secret recipe to keeping him healthy. I don't think that. I think that's an outlier. He's a guy who has been oft injured. And I think too often you've had to rely on Tyron Smith, a guy that is not very durable and he's not available to you very often. And when you have to go into games without him, we've seen sometimes those, those bad games, those games where you have to put in a guy that you can't trust. And left tackle is a very important position. It's the blind side for the quarterback. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you're not going to get better with a rookie. We don't know that. People said the same thing about Tyler Smith when we drafted him. He was the 24th overall pick in the first round. People said there's no way. It's a horrible pick. He was a reach. He was he held a lot when he was at Tulsa. And I mean, look what happened. He came in and he had been practicing at left guard pretty much the whole preseason. Then next thing you know, Tyron Smith gets injured. Boom, they slide him out to left tackle. And he played pretty damn good as a rookie and held it down for that season, as long as he needed to at that left tackle position. So I'm not sitting there thinking that I don't think that we can get a rookie. And I think this year in the draft, first round, if there's a guy there, if he's a tackle or a guard, I think you take him. So
yeah. No, I mean, Tyler Smith, again, all pro his second year. That's pretty damn good. And everyone can, all the experts, and I've seen them all on Twitter target, love Tyler. You guys, I know the ones who are shitting on him too. So, and calling that a stupid pick for the Cowboys and a dumb move, but that worked out well. But my man Edgar, Justin Simmons from the Broncos, a defensive tackle. Now they signed a D tackle, not a big name, from the Patriots, right? They brought him over. Offensive line, I'd agree with. Justin Simmons, selfishly, and Kelly would be on my side with it. We want him in Dallas because my best friend coached him in high school, so there's an in if Justin Simmons comes to the Cowboys, we can get him on the Cave. So I would love him to come to the Cowboys. He's a good player too. He's a damn good football player as well. And he was just a cap casualty because of the hit that the Broncos are taking for Russell Wilson. So he's still Pro Bowl player, all pro player. He's at good years. So safety's interesting because my son swears on the safeties. We need safeties. And some people say we don't. What's your thoughts on our safeties? Are you happy with our safeties, Kelly? And in the chat too, are you guys happy with the safeties we have? Or, I mean, you got some guys from the U. You got Cam. You got James Williams. You got some guys in the draft. I mean, what's your thoughts on these safeties? Do we need an overhaul?
I don't know necessarily that we need an overhaul, but I'm definitely not against getting a safety. I think that position could always improve. I still, the Cowboys, I still think have yet to really address the safety position like they need to. We still don't have the guy that you got back there that's your field general in the secondary that you just put back there like a Darren Woodson. We haven't had a Darren Woodson since Darren Woodson, and I understand that Darren Woodson should be in the Hall of Fame, and he's one of the all-time greatest safeties to play for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's a big expectation. But I'm just saying the fact that we really haven't addressed that in the draft, we haven't tried to go after a guy like that in the first round. And there are some talented safeties out there in this draft. Don't know if they'll be there when the Cowboys pick, but I do think that the safety position should be addressed. And again, there's guys that are going to be out there that can be had in free agency that aren't necessarily guys that you're going to have to throw a ton of money at. I saw today, man, my guy from Texas Tech, and he was a linebacker for Seattle. He's a first round draft pick. He actually got released. Jordan Brooks is a linebacker for Seattle. Blogging the Boys wrote an article about him, said he's a good fit for the Cowboys. I'd love to see him, bring him on back to Texas. I don't think he's a guy that you're going to have to give a huge contract to by any means, but I do think he's a good fit in Zimmer's defense. So there's guys that they can look for that they don't have to throw the whole bag at, but we do need some help at those positions.
Yeah. Well, you need to get that power bill or something. I don't know what happened, but
turned off the lights on me. Hang on just a minute.
But I think safety is, a ball hawking safety. I think Donovan Wilson kind of fits in what Zimmer would like to do. He blitzes his safeties a lot. He did it in Minnesota a lot. He did it in Dallas, with some time, a lot of times there too. So I think Donovan Wilson's a guy. You got Marquise Bell there too, right? He's not a linebacker. He should be a safety. So it's safety. See how they move those chess pieces around and what Zimmer's going to end up doing, especially even Parsons. Is he going to be an off the ball guy, or are they going to keep him at DN? They haven't really, at least I haven't heard really much about what the plans are with Parsons. I think he's going to end up, when all said and done, probably going to be the DN, right? I mean,
yeah, well, they did pick up that 5th-year option on him, and they did that at the defensive end. I did hear though that is that's not something that the Cowboys did. It's something that the league is predetermined, I guess, apparently by the number of snaps, I guess,
probably
at a certain position. So it's not necessarily something. At first, when I first saw it, I thought it was the Cowboys doing it because they could save $2.7 million this year, which is what they're saving by doing that. But it's not the Cowboys' move to do that. If Micah Parsons wanted to, his agent apparently could petition the NFL to classify him as a linebacker, but I don't know why they do that, because he doesn't play linebacker. He plays the defensive end position. And that's where they've lined him up at. That's where he primarily plays. And, and now if there's a plan to move him to that linebacker position, and that's where he truly wants to go, he thinks that he could excel there and he'd rather do that, and Zimmer thinks that that's where he's best served, hey, then I'm all for it, man. I'm going to trust these defensive coaches. I'm going to trust Zimmer to put Parsons in the best spot. But for me, from what I've seen, man, Parsons at defensive end is dangerous. He's a guy that gets double-digit sacks every single year since he's been in the league. And I think that's hard to take away from a defense, is to pull double-digit sacks off of your defense and expect somebody to step in there and be able to do that right away when you have a guy on the roster already that can and has done that and can continue to do that. I think Parsons will continue to get better in that role if he should stay there. But again, he's also a freak athlete, man. I think he would excel at any position that you put the man in. So I'm all about it.
No, absolutely. And hey, real quick again, thank you for everyone. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share. If you're hanging out with us still, just take a quick second, hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, just hit that little subscribe and hit that alert bell, man. We appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. And also, I do want to thank, we didn't get a chance. We got all excited and everything going on with Gogan and the stories. And we won't be monetizing this show. I'm pretty sure about that. But with Cuts by Jones is donated a giveaway during the show. There was a question that he asked, very specific question. And if you knew the answer to it or what he asked, he's doing a giveaway. He was doing it on Twitter, and one of his beautiful cuts. It's a Cowboys helmet. I got to get one in my cave in my house, but that's one thing that you guys make sure, if you haven't done that, check him out on Twitter as well. And if you're not following Kelly and I, what the hell's wrong with you? But I'm sure you are. But you're Cowboy fans. You got to follow us, right? I mean, geez, we bring it, but definitely appreciate it. And next week's gonna be a little tricky. Your boy's gonna be on vacation, got to get away, so we'll see. I know we don't have a show Monday, but we'll see with Kelly if he's up for it. Maybe he'll be doing something. So that's why you want to have that alert bell on, because we can pop up at any time. I might be in the mountains, you might see me. So make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, and also that alert bell. And thank you, again, appreciate everyone. It's been such a great show. I don't even know, we've been talking for so long. What else did we miss, Kelly? What else we got going on?
We hit 2 hours. But I absolutely want to thank everybody.
That's Knicks. We're in Knicks territory.
We're in Knicks territory. We're in Knicks territory. But I want to thank everybody for for getting in here. But SoCal True does say that. It said 12 likes, people. Smash that like button for us. We got 388 people here in the chat, man. That's an all-time high for the Cowboys Cave. I know Kevin Gogan is a big reason for that, bringing in a Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl champion. A great show. But I do want to thank everybody that turned out, and you took your time out of your night on a Thursday night to tune into the Cowboys Cave. Maybe not to watch me and Mike, maybe it was to watch Gogan. But hey, for whatever reason, you guys stuck around. It's been almost a good 40 minutes since Gogan left the show. We're still 389 strong in here. So if you're still in here, please just hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, because every subscriber that gets in here, it helps us to continue to bring more great content to you guys. And at the end of the day, we are fans just like y'all. We're going to bring it to you from a fan's perspective. We're not going to claim to be right. We're not going to claim to be geniuses, that we got the fixes, that we got all the answers, but we're in here talking with fans like you, and we want your opinion on things. We want your opinion on the state of the Cowboys, what you think we should do. That's what we do. We discuss these things. We debate these things, and that's what makes Cowboys Nation great. We got the best fans and the best team, and, we're going to continue to bring it here on the Cave.
Yeah, and we have some giveaways at 3,000, and we're getting closer and closer. It's the off season, so work to do, but we've got a Bob Lilly Funko Pop. I've shown it a few times. We got that at 3,000. At 5,000 subscribers, you get 2 seats. You get my seats, club level, Cowboys game. If we do it before next season, it'll be next season. If it's the year after that, it can be a year after that. You can do with them as you please. You can take me. You can take Kelly. You can take screw you guys. I'm going to take who I want. Anyway, we look at it, you're going to have a good time, and they're great seats. So that's another thing we give back. And again, with us, we're fans. We're not going to sit here and claim to be right on everything. We want your opinions. We want to understand it. I'm not, you guys see me. I don't really get active on Twitter as much in the off season, unless it's something I got to say or something to do. I'm not into I don't get caught up into the stuff just to say shit. It's got to mean something. So even though I'm quiet, I'm still around, and then you come find us at the Cave, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, this is where we come to. It's just we do what we got to do, man. It's the off season, but we're still trying to bring the content to you guys, man. Because man, I'm just I don't know, man. Every time we get to do one of these shows, especially when it's to interview a former Cowboys legend or a coach, or just to sit up here in the Cave and chop it up with fellow Cowboys fans, I always consider myself, blessed to do that. And I love talking with other Cowboys fans. It's something I'm passionate about. I know you guys are passionate about. We're all passionate about this team. It's not a contest on who's the most passionate, but we all have that passion. That's why you guys are here in that chat right now. That's why you're watching. And that's why we're here on this platform trying to bring this, from fans' perspective to you guys. So y'all can experience it just like we do. Because trust us, Mike is just as excited. I'm just as excited as you guys to sit there and be able to talk with Gogan and hear some of the stories. What a great interview, and a great player and a great person. So
yeah. Well, the best was I emailed. I didn't tell him, but I emailed him the link at about 2:00 or whatever, and 5:00 I get an email from him. He goes, "Oh shit, man, I forgot all about it, man." He goes, I'm gonna set my alarm. I was like, "Oh man," I said, "He's funny," but that's the way he is, man. You saw the way he talks. He's such a cool guy, and so approachable. And like I said, the way he responded to my message I sent him, it was just classic. He don't want to know what the hell's wrong with me. Hopefully he doesn't think I do drugs. I mean, I know he's just kidding, but for him to get former players and stuff to like our videos and like some of that stuff, man, it's pretty damn sweet. And we love doing it. We've got a lot of other guests coming on board. So again, hit that subscribe, hit the like, hit the share. I don't really have anything else, Kelly. I'm kind of worn out. You got anything that I missed?
I'm out, man. I'm out, and I'm out of beer. I need to go get me another one of these Miller Lights. So I'm out, man. My gas tank is empty. I've emptied it all out here, man. So I'm ready to. And
we're working on 8 beer. Right? We got a message back. Maybe there's hope. We offered to be their sponsor. We're not asking for money. We're just, hey, send us a couple cases of beer. We're going to promote it on your show. We'll drop them in some of our videos. Instead of Kelly holding a Miller Lite, he'd be holding an 8 beer. Troy Aikman's beer. What's wrong with that? Yeah, and all we ask is maybe Troy comes in and chops it up with us a little bit.
That's right. That's right. That's
right.
That's the ultimate goal, man. That's the ultimate goal. So, get the 8 beer in the Cave, and then get Troy Aikman in the Cave. I mean, I imagine if we got this kind of turnout for Kevin Gogan, not taking anything from Gogan, but if we would get a guy like Troy Aikman in here, I can imagine this number is probably going to double, maybe even triple. We get Mr. Troy Aikman in here for a little bit to talk about some of his time, because we all know how great of a player he was in that Cowboys team. I mean, hell, I named my son after Troy Aikman. So
I don't know if he'd be as candid as Gogan. Do you think?
he might not be as candid, and I don't think the F-bombs are gonna fly as much. But I did. Hey, he was true to form, man. He said he was gonna come in, have fun, and he didn't have no filter. And damn, if he didn't have no filter, so it made me feel a little bit comfortable because you know me and my mouth, I like to throw around the F-bomb, and I don't get to a lot. But as soon as Gogan started doing it, I was like, well, hey, he unleashed it, so now I'll be able to talk a little more freely and candidly. So and be able to. We can't monetize it, obviously. So I'm like, hey, he said it. Now I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
So.
let's have some fun with it, man. It's good. But hey, also, if my man Doug's still hanging out, I am going to be in Charlotte. Not next week, the week after. So hopefully we can. I'll hit you up. Hopefully we can catch up and grab a beer. One of the days I'm there. So, but other than that, man, we'll leave you guys. We appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend. Have a great week because I won't see you live. I may drop a video here and there, but you may see Kelly's smiling face. And then the week after, we've got another special guest, not an athlete, but this woman does unbelievable content on Instagram. She's a big Cowboys fan. She drops some good stuff. I think she's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely looking forward to having her in the cave. So it's going to be a good time. So we will see you guys. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate all the support. And we'll see you soon. Take care, man.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need